We'll start this meeting at 6 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 10th regular session meeting. We will start this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Chief Monk, will you please lead us? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hudson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Thomas,
Here.
Councilmember Hanson,
Here.
Councilmember Pride, here, Councilmember Busby.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Just one, to move the consent calendar up after the cannabis tax presentation.
Okay. So we move item 6B after item 7C and just before item 8A. Okay. With that, we have a couple of ceremonial matters. First one is item 5A, Proclamation National Agricultural Week. And Councilmember Hanson will be reading this.
Yeah, it'd be an honor to, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. City of Willows Proclamation National Agriculture Week. Whereas agriculture plays a vital role in the economy and heritage of the City of Willows, Glynn County, and the state of California. And whereas the agriculture industry provides food, fiber, and renewable resources that sustain our community, state, nation, and world. And whereas farmers, ranchers, farm workers, processors, distributors, researchers, and agricultural educators work diligently to ensure a safe, abundant, and affordable food supply. And whereas agriculture contributes significantly to the local economy, supporting jobs, businesses, and the longstanding traditions of rural communities. And whereas National Agriculture Week is an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the many contributions of agriculture and to increase public awareness to the essential role agriculture plays in our daily lives. And whereas the City of Willows recognizes the dedication and hard work of those involved in agriculture and acknowledges their importance to the prosperity and sustainability of our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Gary Hanson, on behalf of Mayor Evan Hudson and the Willows City Council and the citizens of Willows, do hereby recognize National Agriculture Week, observed March 15th to 21st, 2026, and encourage all residents to acknowledge and appreciate the vital contributions of agriculture and those who work in this essential industry. In witness whereof I have, and Mayor Hudson has hereunto set his hand and official seal this 10th day of March, 2026, signed by Evan Hudson, Mayor of the City of Willows. And we have Larry Dominigini, local farmer, former council member and mayor, and member of the director of the Glynn County Farm Bureau, here to receive the presentation. Hey, Larry.
Thank you, Mayor Hudson, members of the Willows City Council, for the proclamation and recognition of agriculture. Last year, has had the opportunity to receive this on behalf of Glynn County Farm Bureau. I appreciate that both then and now. Last year, I talked a little bit about the economic impact. Farm Bureau Glynn County Farm Bureau reps about 500 farm families, farmers and ranchers in Glynn County. And we are committed not just to our own livelihoods, but the betterment of Glynn County. We've been at the podiums, at the meetings and stuff. We share your concerns. We want a vibrant ag and overall economy in Glynn County. We share your concerns about law enforcement, about the health of our fire departments, about our hospital. We've been, talking with our elected representatives on that issue specifically also. And our directors and members are also involved, not just on city councils, but also on school boards, fire department boards. We see the county as a whole. We're a family, and we support each other, and we appreciate your support for agriculture, and we appreciate your volunteer activities such as this. So I just leave you with the fact that we appreciate this recognition of agriculture, and we're allies with you on pretty much everything. property taxes. We may get a little surly about it, but really, we're working together. I want you to realize that. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Larry.
Well said, Larry. Thank you.
Hey, item 5B, the next second proclamation is for International Sports Car Racing Day. We have council member slash CEO, Matt Busby, to present.
City of Willows proclamation, International Sports Car Racing Day, whereas motorsports have long been a source of innovation, entertainment, and community engagement around the world, and whereas sports car racing represents a unique blend of engineering excellence, driver skill, teamwork, and competitive spirit, and whereas International Sports Car Racing Day celebrates the rich history and global impact of sports car racing, recognizing legendary races, teams, drivers, and the dedicated fans who support the sport. And whereas Thunderhill Raceway Park, located near the city of Willows, is recognized as one of the premier road racing facilities in the United States and hosts numerous national and international motorsports events each year. And whereas Thunderhill Raceway Park contributes significantly to the local economy by attracting drivers, teams, spectators, and visitors from across the country, supporting local businesses and tourism in the Willows community. And whereas the City of Willows recognizes the important role Thunderhill Raceway Park plays in promoting motorsports, innovation, and recreation within our region. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Matt Busby, on behalf of Evan Hudson, Mayor of the City of Willows, and on behalf of the Willows City Council and the citizens of Willows, do hereby recognize Saturday, March 21st, 2026, as International Sports Car Racing Day and commend Thunderhill Raceway Park for its contributions to motorsports and the local community. And on behalf of Thunderhill, to receive the award is Operations Manager Anthony McHugh.
All right. Next up, last and definitely not least, we have a presentation of a 20-year service pin for Natisa Phil, Superintendent of Public Works. In recognition and appreciation for 20 years of dedicated service, unwavering commitment, and outstanding contributions, your hard work, loyalty, and professionalism have been integral to our success and growth. We honor your journey and express our deepest gratitude for your 20 years of exceptional service. Natisa, will you please meet me up front? Oh.
I'd like to say a couple extra words and present or two if you guys want to stay up there. So Natisa's been here for 20 years, and I'm very lucky coming in at 2.5 years to have somebody that is as knowledgeable in public works, to be able to take care of themselves and not have me do anything because she is that knowledgeable. She's a feisty, tough, and not afraid to say exactly what needs to be said, and that's for sure. If you know Natisa, you know that. She's built a tremendous career in a field that has been traditionally dominated by men, and she's done that through being knowledgeable, hardworking, and exceptionally capable. And I'm like I said, I'm very proud to be able to have you as my superintendent, and very lucky that you were in place to take care of all the things that I don't know how to. So I appreciate you for that. And as staff as a whole, we'd like to present you with another little special token of appreciation. So we got the only thing we thought would be appropriate here is the giant shovel and a plaque decorated with your 20.
Thank you, Natisa. You've always made my job a lot easier. Appreciate it.
I had the privilege of being on the interview panel when Natisa was hired 20 years ago. So it's been really fun to have been around since you started with the city. Thanks for doing such a great job.
Yeah, congratulations, Natisa.
Thank
You're
you.
awesome in every way. Thank God we've got you. Thank you. That was a good hire, Lori, by the way.
That was a very
Okay. All right. Next up, we have item 6, presentations. 6A, cannabis tax presentation. Recommended action, receive the presentation and provide direction to staff regarding the proposed cannabis business tax ordinance. Contact Marty Brown, City Manager.
Very briefly, as you may recall, Council, just a few months ago, you gave the authority to move forward with hiring HDL consulting firm to help the city draft and prepare a cannabis tax, business tax ordinance. And so we went ahead and did that. And tonight is a presentation we had talked about as part of that proposal to come back and talk to you about the options for placing a tax on the November 2026 ballot. And here tonight to present those options and give you background and overview is Mike Lovelace of HDL. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mark.
Pardon the loud noise there. Thank you for having me. My name is Mark Lovelace. I'm a senior policy advisor with HDL Companies. Just by way of background, prior to joining HDL, I spent 8 years on the Board of Supervisors in Humboldt County as we were looking at coming legalization and all of the impacts that that could have on our community, our economy, our industry. A little bit about HDL. HDL is a municipal finance consulting firm dedicated to serving local government agencies. One of our practice areas includes cannabis consulting, where we help cities develop best practices for regulating the industry. We also assist cities with implementation and ongoing management, audits, inspections, other kinds of oversight of cannabis businesses once they're in place. Importantly, we work only with cities, counties, and other public agencies. We have no private sector clients, either in the cannabis industry or any other type of industry. We remain impartial or agnostic regarding cannabis and legalization. Our goal is to provide your city with information to support your decision-making process, but not to advocate for any particular outcome. We have a few objectives for our discussion today. First is to provide a brief overview of the retail cannabis market in the Willows region and to present the cannabis tax rates among nearby jurisdictions. We'll also provide estimates for the amount of revenue that could be generated from a cannabis retail tax in the city and discuss the merits of taxes versus community benefits agreements. Following the presentation, we'll hear from members of the public, take questions from the council, and lastly, staff will be asking council to provide some direction on a few key issues for developing the cannabis tax measure. Slide. So first, let's take a look at where cannabis retailers are located in the general region. Consumers like to make their cannabis purchases close to home, the same way they buy beer, wine, or groceries. So we generally consider stores within a 15 to 20-minute drive as being within the same market. As shown on these maps, as you can see on the tall, skinny one, there is nothing nearby for the city. There are no licensed cannabis retailers within 30 miles of Willows, and the nearest stores are in Chico, which is about a 40-minute drive. That's well outside of the distance that we'd normally expect consumers to be willing to drive to make their purchases. Along the I-5 corridor, the nearest cannabis stores are 45 minutes to the north in Red Bluff or an hour to the south in Woodland. There's also 2 retailers in Marysville about an hour away, and we are aware that one store did just open here in town, working its way through the process, and the other one I expected in the near future. To give an idea of how limited access to cannabis is in California, 53% of cities and counties still don't allow any type of cannabis businesses whatsoever, including retail. There are currently only about 1,800 cannabis retailers in all of California. And that's compared with 23,000 places to buy tobacco or vape products, and nearly 80,000 places to buy alcohol. So access is a relative matter with this industry. Next. This table shows the number of cannabis stores in all of these nearby jurisdictions, along with their distance from Willows and their general population, which includes neighboring cities and nearby unincorporated areas. People don't stop at city limit lines when they're going to the nearest store. For example, the two retailers in the city of Marysville also serve consumers in nearby neighboring Yuba City, which doesn't allow cannabis stores. This gives a market density of one retailer for every 50,000 people. Back up to the, yeah, one for a minute. So for the city of Marysville, that gives a market density of one retailer for every 50,000 people. As you can see, there's a wide range. Chico has one retailer for every 65,000 people, and Red Bluff has one retailer for every 5,000 people. Again, there's a wide range to market density across California. HDL has observed an average density of around one retailer for every 18 to 20,000 people, but that average is based on a very wide range, anywhere from one retailer to over 200,000 people to one for less than 1,000 people. And on that smaller side, all five of the retailers in that city of 5,000 are doing very, very well. So there is no absolute rule on this. It's a matter of adjusting to the market. We anticipate that retailers in the city of Willows would capture essentially all of the cannabis sales within Glenn County, other than Hamilton City, which is much closer to Chico. So we assume that consumers in that community would probably be making their purchases in Chico rather than the driving to Willows. Depending upon advertising, retailers in the city may also capture sales from travelers on the I-5 corridor, though the amount of these sales is hard to predict. We believe that the two retailers the city currently has or has in process are a good number for the size of the local market. That's appropriate. Slide. Thank you. Looking at nearby cannabis taxes and community benefit fees, we see that there's an even split between cities that use community benefit agreements or CBAs and those that have voter-approved taxes. Statewide, we find that more cities use taxes than CBAs, but it does tend to vary somewhat by region. If the first movers within a region go with taxes, then everyone's usually going to follow suit. First movers had community benefit agreements. We see more of those. So it varies some. This table also shows the number of storefront retailers and non-storefront delivery services in each jurisdiction. Where both types are allowed, we generally see far more storefront retailers than non-storefront, and that's the case here. Among businesses that conduct both types of sales, deliveries tend to account for less than 10% of their business. So definitely storefront retail is where it's at if the city's trying to capture the highest amount of revenue. The city of Woodland does not allow non-storefront delivery services, and that's why that box is in red. And Yolo County allows both types, but has no cannabis retailers in the unincorporated area. Among all of these jurisdictions, the average tax or fee rate is 5.8%, though this is skewed somewhat higher by that 10% rate in the city of Woodland. If we look only at those jurisdictions that are closest to Willows, the average falls down to 4.7%. HDL generally recommends that cannabis taxes for retail fall in the range of 4 to 7%, but the rate should be consistent with other nearby jurisdictions. Too high and the businesses may be non-competitive, too low and the city may be leaving money on the table. Based on this, we think that the rate of 5% likely be a good fit for the city of Willows. Next. Thank you. Now I want to talk a little bit about the cumulative impact of taxes because it is complicated with cannabis taxes. The California Department of Tax and Fee Administration provides rules on how the various taxes that apply to cannabis all should be stacked upon each other. This table shows how those various taxes add up to a cumulative rate that's greater than the sum of its parts. So according to CDCFA, any local tax or community benefit agreement fees are applied first. So assuming a $100 purchase and a 4% tax rate, that would add up to $104. The state's 15% cannabis excise tax is then applied to that new higher basis of $104 rather than the original $100, giving a new subtotal of $119. State and local sales taxes are then applied to that yet higher subtotal, giving a final purchase price of $130.07. The individual taxes all add up to 27.75%, but the cumulative rate ends up being over 30%, more than 2.5% higher than the sum of its parts. In the yellow column, we've applied a higher local cannabis tax of 8%, so 4% higher than the first example. But as you can see, that adds up to a cumulative tax rate of over 35%. So increasing the local tax by 4% increases the cumulative tax rate by over 5%. So it's quite a bit of tax upon this product. Next slide. Thank you. To calculate the projected revenue from a cannabis tax, we first have to calculate the likely gross receipts based upon the size of the market. As we discussed earlier, we believe that retailers in Willows capture sales from essentially all of Glenn County other than the town of Hamilton City. That gives us a total service area population of around 26,600 people. We've subtracted 10% to allow for some amount of sales leakage, because there are established retailers in other communities, even if they're fairly far flung. But people would be already used to making purchases in those places. So we like to account for a leakage, even though we believe that would likely be minimal because of the distances involved. That gives us an adjusted service area population of just under 24,000 people. To that figure, we account for the percentage of the population that uses cannabis, the average transaction amount, and the average transaction frequency. Come up with around $437,000 monthly, or $5.2 million in annual gross receipts. Next slide. Using that estimate, we can now apply a range of taxes, range of tax rates, to estimate the amount of annual revenue that the city may be able to generate. This ranges from a low of $100,000 a year at a rate of 2% to a high of $400,000 a year at a rate of 8%. Applying a midpoint rate of 5%, which is consistent with that regional average, generate around $260,000 a year in annual revenue for the city. Cannabis sales would also be subject to the city's 1% portion of the state sales tax and the city's 1.5% Measure I local transactions tax, giving an additional $131,000 in revenue sales. Combined, we project that cannabis stores in the city of Willows generate around $400,000 a year in annual tax revenue for the city, assuming a 5% tax rate. Slide. The city currently has 2 cannabis retailers, one of which just opened, and the other of which is preparing to open. These businesses currently operate under community benefit agreements as a means of providing revenue for the city. Community benefit agreements, or CBAs, can be used to generate revenue much like a tax, but there are a number of notable differences between the two that we want to run through. CBAs have to be negotiated and agreed to separately with each business, while the tax only requires one-time voter approval and is applied evenly to all businesses. CBAs can be negotiated at any time, while a cannabis tax has to be placed on the ballot at a general election, which only happens every other year, this coming November being one. Negotiating a community benefit agreement can result in a substantial legal cost for the business, commonly in the tens of thousands of dollars. In some cases, we've heard of being $100,000 for businesses in some larger jurisdictions to be able to negotiate that kind of. While preparing a cannabis tax and placing it on the ballot carries a number of upfront costs for the city that do not apply to this. While most regulatory costs can be recovered through fees, development of a tax cannot, though the cost may be recouped down the line through tax revenue, assuming that the measure passes. With a community benefit agreement, any change in the rates has to be approved by both parties through negotiation, whereas with the tax the rates can be changed unilaterally by the city council up to the maximum rate allowed by the measure. This can result, with the CBA, this can result in some businesses negotiating more favorable rates than others, whereas the tax has to be applied evenly, consistently, to all similar businesses. So all storefront retailers would have to pay the same rate under tax, where it can vary with a CBA. HDL has seen that CBAs tend to benefit bigger, more experienced chains that know how to negotiate better, have a little bit more capacity in the legal department, whereas with the tax, the rates, whereas smaller businesses, such as first-time retailers or locally owned mom and pop type businesses, maybe aren't as adept at negotiating favorable terms, CBAs. CBAs can also include non-monetary contributions, such as volunteer hours, community cleanups, sponsorship of events, or anything else that the city and the business want to work out together. They can also provide benefits to non-governmental entities, such as community organizations or nonprofits. A tax can be placed on the ballot as either a general tax or a special tax. With the general tax, all revenue goes into the city's general fund and can be used for any legitimate government purpose. The general tax only requires 50% plus one majority for approval. If any part of the revenue has been earmarked in advance for a particular purpose, then that tax qualifies as a special tax, which requires a 2/3 majority for approval. For example, if the council were to say, in putting the measure on the ballot, if the council were to say that, say, 30% of the revenue is going to go to roads, 30% to public safety, that would qualify as a special tax and would again require the 2/3 majority. Lastly, all revenue from a tax must go to the city. So the city does have the ability to expend that tax revenue as it sees fit, but it can't be pre-dedicated to any courses outside of the city. Next slide. So the ballot measure timeline. As noted previously, a tax must be placed on the ballot at a general election, which only happens every other year. So this upcoming November 3rd is the nearest opportunity. And having this discussion here in March is very good timing, gives a nice long lead time. California election law dictates that all ballot materials, have to be submitted to the county elections office no later than 88 days before the election, which puts the deadline first week of August. Having prepared tax measures for more than 60 cities and counties in California, I can say that this is a really good time to be considering it. We have worked with cities that have started the discussion in May or even later in June. While it can be done, we really don't rush it. Assuming the council provides direction at this meeting to move forward, that would give city staff and HDL perhaps 6 weeks to prepare a draft ordinance and to circulate it for internal review towards the end of April. The city would then have plenty of time through May and June to agendize the ordinance for first and second reading before the council, and to prepare all of the necessary support materials such as the ballot resolution, ballot statement, for submission to the county elections office sometime in July before that August deadline. Last slide. So in summary, with our recommendations, our analysis shows that the cannabis retailers in the city of Willows would likely be well positioned to capture essentially the entire market for a wide area surrounding the city, as there are no other retailers within 30 miles. Common retail tax rates in the region average around 5 to 6%. We estimate that 2 retailers is a good number for the city and the surrounding area. It's enough to allow for a little competition, while still having a large enough customer base to keep them both viable and profitable. HDL recommends that a tax ordinance should allow for a maximum rate of up to 8%, but that the city council have the ability to set the effective rate by resolution at any time as it sees fit. We would recommend that the council set the initial rate at 5% so as to be competitive with other jurisdictions in the area. Again, this would be done after approval by the voters. The council would have the ability to adjust the rate at any time as it. Assuming a cannabis tax rate of 5% combined with the regular sales tax, city's measure I tax, We project that retailers in the city could generate around 400,000 in revenue for the city. Lastly, we note that the city has ample lead time to develop a draft ordinance, provide internal review and the necessary public hearings so as to place it on the ballot in time for that deadline in the first week. And slide. Oops, I'm sorry. So the key decisions for the council if it chooses to move forward. Along with the administrative provisions of a tax ordinance, your staff is seeking council direction on a few key policy decisions that would allow us to begin working on the ordinance. Most of the ordinance is just administrative, but these key parameters would need to be established by the council. First, the council needs to decide whether the tax ordinance could include all potential cannabis business types or only retailers. HDL strongly recommends that the ordinance include all cannabis business types, regardless of whether or not they're allowed by the city. Including other cannabis business types within the tax ordinance does not in any way obligate or compel the city to allow those types of businesses either now or in the future. But if the city were to choose to allow some other type in the future that's currently prohibited, the city would not have to go back before the voters to make that change. They're already included within the ordinance, even if they're not allowed by the city. The ordinance would also allow the council to set separate rates for different cannabis business types, if so desired, so that there could be separate rates for retail and non-retail or wholesale businesses, such as distribution or manufacturing, if they were to be allowed at some point.
Sorry.
Okay.
That was a test.
Didn't know if there's a time limit. I wasn't. aware
No,
of here,
sorry.
but,
It's our pager test for the fire department. I thought it was on Do Not Disturb, but apparently that still comes through.
The council also needs to provide guidance to staff and HDL about what the maximum tax rate would be. As mentioned previously, we would recommend a maximum rate allowable rate the maximum allowable rate not exceed 8%. This allows a little bit of headroom for the future if market conditions were to improve or to warrant or justify a higher rate. But the council would then come back after adoption to set the active. Lastly, the council needs to decide whether it wants to set the initial rate within the ordinance itself, mentioned, or to come back after adoption, which we strongly recommend, because that gives the council the greatest flexibility. It doesn't in any way bind the council to a rate that was written into the ordinance. And with that slide. There's a slide that says thank you, so thank you. And with that, I'll see if there's any questions.
Vice Mayor Thomas, any questions? Okay, Councilmember Pride.
The only question I had, Mark, was that in Calusa, which is about 34-ish miles away, there is a cannabis dispensary with the casino. You mentioned licensed dispensaries, so I don't know if they have to be licensed or not through the state, but I didn't know if that would make a difference if there's a casino dispensary.
There are other cities that have licensed retailers on tribal lands. The ones I've dealt with before have worked through the county to be able to get that license to be cooperative. It is, as I understand it, a bit of a gray area because they're subject to federal law, not state law. And
the purpose of the question was, would that dilute the numbers that you're projecting if there's a dispensary closer?
It is 30 miles away, which is not that much different than the city of Chico. We think if people had the opportunity to make purchases at a storefront location in Willows, we think that would, there might be some dividing line people that are, a little closer to where that casino is may opt for that. But really the major populated areas tend to be along the I-5 corridor in this area. We think that, I don't think that would really change the estimate any considerable.
Councilmember Busby.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Would there be enough information or data to know precedent on a retail storefront versus a wholesale and what those taxable rates look like across the state? Like, is there a big divergence or is it kind of all over the place?
There's sometimes a little confusion between retail delivery and distribution, distribution being wholesale, and the cannabis distributor cannot sell cannabis to an end user, to anyone other than another licensed cannabis. So for that product to get into the hands of cannabis consumers, it does still have killer. We do the wholesale prices or wholesale tax rates generally being much lower than retail, especially on cultivation. We also are seeing more and more over time a movement towards taxing all wholesale businesses the same, because it's very often for wholesale cannabis business, different business types, vertically integrated, distribution, manufacturing, cultivation. And if they have different tax rates for the different types of operations, you can bet that they're going to try to figure out how they can book the sales under the low tax rate. So having them all under the same rate takes that issue away.
All I have.
Okay, Councilmember Hanson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mark, for the presentation. Yeah, very, very informative. I have a lot of faith with HDL. Your firm has served us extremely well, and your
Thank you.
your tax predictions are just uncanny. They're just amazingly accurate. I don't know how you do it, but your firm does good work. I'm comfortable with your recommendation of 5% because, like I say, you've never steered your firm has never steered this city council wrong in any way in any of your in any of the previous times that we've contracted with your firm. So I'm comfortable with the 5% moving forward. So that's all I had, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thanks again, Mark.
Okay. Vice Mayor Thomas, you ready?
Yeah, I am. So we would float this tax measure on the ballot with a low rate and a maximum rate, correct?
Can be done that way. We generally recommend that the tax measure only include a maximum rate, allow the council to adjust the rate as it sees fit anywhere.
They don't set a low rate.
With a low rate written into the ordinance, it can be binding upon the council in the future, or good or for bad.
Well, if the market goes horribly wrong,
yeah,
you might need to
exactly.
back that off in order to keep them viable.
Yeah. As with any business, it's not unique to the cannabis business that, of course, businesses would rather pay lower taxes than higher. And so, you don't tend to have businesses saying, hey, things are going great, can you jack up the tax rate? There will be a pretty constant suggestions or pressure or whatever, desire to reduce tax rates because that makes it easier on the business. So having a minimum rate written into the ordinance and give the council something to fall back on and say, hey, that's what was approved by the voters. We want to stick with that. Or even if it's just written in as an initial rate, then it becomes something that, even though initial is different than a minimum rate because you can still move around below it. It's really up to the council. We generally, as I said, recommend only the maximum rate being in there because that gives the council maximum ability in the future. But some councils like being a little limited on their ability to keep reducing taxes.
Well, this would be with not intending any disrespect to my existing council members, but so by the whim of the city council, we can set a new rate every year.
Councils can do that. We recommend against that. I think that it's more a matter of really trying to not adjust things on the fly every year because that becomes inconsistent, hard to predict for the businesses. But if things, if council were to start with a 5% tax rate and the industry were to, currently the hardships are really on the wholesale part of the industry. The hardship that's been hitting the retail end has been that prices are in decline because of oversaturation on the wholesale side on production. Prices have just gone down. Cannabis has never been cheaper ever. And that's making it harder and harder to turn a profit on the retail end. But there still is a market there. People still want to buy the product. But if something were to change in the future and the council wanted to adjust it down to 3%, 2%, or something like that, you would have that ability. We really recommend against doing that on a
So we could include in the ordinance to review the rate every year or every second year on June 30th or July 1.
typically,
Or do we tie it to a specific date?
typically we when we're working with council, unless there's other direction typically from the council, we would just recommend a maximum rate, and the council has the opportunity to adjust the rate as they see. For the most part, we have not found councils wanting to come back and look at it every couple months or, you know,
Well, that would be
basis.
burdensome.
Yeah, it is burdensome. And, you know, we recommend, as with any kind of market, looking at it in a longer term trend, that, you know, what happens within any 1 year can be really episodic and doesn't necessarily indicate what's going to happen next year or the year after that. And, yeah, so we would recommend taking a longer view of it, looking at least every 2 to 3 years for making those kinds of adjustments.
Well, for my fellow council members, I'm kind of like to make my decisions based on what our council believes, but also recognize that the future councils of this city might have an entirely different view, and what we allow today will be allowed later. And so we need to be aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a couple questions for you. So does the cannabis tax, if it were to go through and we were to say, yes, let's do this and pass it, and it was passed, would it replace the community benefit agreement that's already placed on the businesses? It would replace that, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
typically. I wasn't tasked with reviewing the community benefit agreements themselves.
Okay.
Most of them that we've worked with have a sundown provision to where if the city were to put a tax in place, that the business would shift to that, paying that tax rather than the community benefit agreement.
Okay.
For the community benefit fee. Some continue with the community benefit agreement because it may contain other things about just, you know, some operational aspects for the business. So they'll have a tax and then they'll have a community benefit agreement that no longer fee.
Okay.
There's a lot of different ways of that.
Okay. And then, and this might be more towards,
I was just
Sorry,
going to
Marty.
briefly say that both of the dispensaries in town have a provision that if a tax is passed, their community benefits agreement basically just dissolves and goes away.
okay. So then that leads to my second question. If the cannabis tax fails to pass, does our current community benefit agreement still stay in place?
Yes, it would.
Okay. And then is there a chance that if the county wanted to, they could possibly add their own tax to this?
I believe that is possible. Mark, do you know the answer to that?
Uh,
I mean, it'd be a countywide tax. I think that they can't do it just in Willows, right?
No, that's what I mean. Like if they did a
Do.
county-wide tax, that would obviously affect what we would want our tax rate to be at to make sure that businesses stay open.
Yeah, it's different than other taxes,
Okay.
transactions taxes that can be applied countywide because it's limited to the businesses that are permitted or licensed under the state's licensing program. So you can only be licensed by one, licensed by county for the unincorporated area, you're licensed by the city for the
Or the
incorporated
incorporated.
area.
Okay.
So they would not.
That was
be-
my concern when it was brought up that, you know, Lucia, you mentioned the county got the licenses for some of the other cannabis retail stores. So that was my only questions. No, I really appreciate the presentation. A lot of good information in there, and gives us something to look at and think about. I do like your recommendation of the 5. Can I ask, why did you stay with why 8? Why is 8 your max?
Again, just to allow some headroom.
Mm-hmm.
There are, and looking around, you know, the city of Woodland has a rate of 10%.
Mm-hmm.
There are some cities that have moved their tax rate up, though the vast majority of movement since this whole, you know, the state's grand experiment with cannabis legalization began in 2018, far more cities have adjusted their tax rate than adjusted up. City of San Diego, just 2004, I believe, adjusted their retail tax rate from 8% up to 10%. There are some that have rates as high as 15% or whatever. So that would just allow that. We imagine over time that, as I noted earlier, 53% of cities and counties still don't allow any type of cannabis.
Right.
And over time, we imagine that will continue to come down as more cities or counties allow for these businesses and tax them. We may find that that local average of 5% ends up moving up because of players coming, basically.
Okay.
So it just allows, again, a little more flexibility for the council, depending upon where things.
And just to piggyback on that, the state cannabis tax you're showing here is 15%. I had heard it was going to possibly be going to 19. Is that
It did. It's a complex matter. Originally, there were two taxes. There was a cultivation tax that was based on weight, and then there was a 15% excise tax that was taxed at the distribution level rather than retail level. It was very complicated. And because of all the problems faced by the cultivation sector, primarily just massive oversaturation, they're producing up to 12 times as much cannabis as all Californians combined. So to try to help out that sector, the state eliminated the cultivation tax, and then they moved the taxing point for the excise tax to retail instead of distribution. But they said that if after 3 years, I can't remember what it was, it fails to, by moving it to that higher price point, it fails to generate an amount of tax that is the equivalent of what was lost by eliminating the cultivation tax, it would automatically bump up to 19%. It did that last year, effective July 1st, but there was legislation that was already moving through the process to eliminate or to put off that increase for another 2 years to buy a little bit more time. So it did go up to 19. It was reduced back down to 15 as of October 1st, and it is set to go back up to 19 again at 2 years, I think, depending upon conditions. So who knows?
saying that it might be another reason to keep it, a lower max rate if they're getting hit hard at the state level?
So I'd like to be the broken record. We have a revenue problem. We have a revenue problem. I think we should consider probably closer to the higher rate. I think, it's inside the margin for noise, in my opinion.
Just to clarify, so are you suggesting, Councilmember Busby, like a 10% cap and no bottom?
No, I think staying in line with the HDL recommendation, but seriously considering 8 instead of 5, just because the additional percentage, the additional revenue, for whatever reason, if we don't see sales the way we expect, it gives us a lot more wiggle room on the future councils get to vote on how, or get to decide on how that gets applied as needed. I think also making it pretty consistent. So from a regulatory standpoint, it's not this bear of like, hey, if we want to go do business in Willows, it's not a pain in the butt. It's a little expensive, but at least it's easy. But I think looking at some of the revenue shortfall projections for the next couple of years, we need to find ways to generate more revenue. And this is on the silver platter, as they say.
Could I ask to go back to the last slide of the presentation? So just to recap, these were the decisions that we were asking for to provide guidance to begin development of an ordinance. That's if council wants that step. The first one would be whether or not to include all business types, regardless of whether they're allowed, which again does not in any way obligate the city to ever allow those. This means that if there were a decision to do that in future, you don't have to go back to the vote. The question regarding the rates would be, what would the maximum rate? And so, to your point, if you were thinking of the 8%, the council could direct that we develop the draft ordinance with a maximum rate of 8%. And unless the council wanted to set an initial rate within the ordinance itself, rather than coming back after adoption, do that step, then we'll just kind of defer that. And that's back of it, whether to set the initial rate by resident.
So with this, when we're discussing the cannabis business types, my thought is to include all cannabis business types.
Yeah.
But then can we adjust the rate by individual category, like retail versus wholesale versus production,
Yes.
delivery, whatever, right? So we can, as long, if we decide, hey, we're making this tax rate for all of them, we can say retail is going to be at 8%, but if you're doing wholesale, it's only going to be 4%. Because as you said earlier, wholesale is normally at a lower tax rate because they
Yeah.
seem to be getting hit harder on the state level, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I like that idea. Honestly, I'd like to see the maximum tax rate up closer to 10, just to adjust for, we don't know what it's going to be like in 5 years. Since its development, we've seen it hit an all-time high of, like you were saying, they've been really high prices to where now it's starting to hit a low due to oversaturation of too much product, essentially, right?
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that we'll eventually find that nice middle line where we'll be at for the next 20, 25 years. I think having our max set at 10 would behoove us over the next 5 to 10 years until whatever city council is in place at that time decides whether they want to try and do another pass another vote to increase that tax rate. And then I like your idea of setting the initial at 8, but still keeping no bottom on it.
And just let folks vote on it.
Great presentation.
Okay.
Thank
Right.
you.
I like hearing about the cumulative taxes. I didn't know they were cumulative until I was talking with Melissa, the owner of the new retail dispensary. So it definitely brings in a little bit more revenue
Yeah.
way
It's,
base.
some places we've seen where the cumulative rate ends up being, as high as like 43%. So I think we could all agree. Pretty high tax rate.
I like the concept of getting the state tax in there on the $100, and then we apply our 4% on that rather than we apply our 4%.
Reverse that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the state's really good at taxing on tax.
Mhm.
Because there's 3 taxes in here, and there's 2 taxes on tax.
Yeah. There's actually 4 if you divide out the regular sales tax
Yeah.
from the voter approved transactions tax, Measure I. So and previously when there was the cultivation tax too, there were 5.
I think you're just looking for council direction then as to where we want to go with those 3 questions.
So all cannabis business types, we're including all of them,
Yes.
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 the maximum tax rate, 10%? What I heard, or 8?
That was my recommendation.
I'm
That's what-
I'm good with going 10. It's a maximum. It's no harm, no foul. It gives it that option.
And no bottom,
No bottom.
No bottom.
and set the initial rate by resolution after it's approved at 5 or
5.
5?
Yeah,
I'm with
whatever.
Matt on the 8, but
I think we get to come back and discuss that by resolution later after we
I
pass the
think we need our
ordinance.
businesses to get established.
Yeah, I think whatever the CBA rate is, just
I think
for,
we got to
for
let
a,
this
a
business
slow ramp up.
established.
Yeah. So I think if we do it by resolution, that gives us more time to decide what we want to set the active rate at when we get it voted in.
And that doesn't have, Mark, that doesn't interfere at all with writing the ordinance, right? By doing it after the fact?
No.
okay.
So just to make sure I'm clear, so what I'm hearing is that we're going to draft an ordinance for you that includes all cannabis business types, allows you to set different rates for the different types if you see fit and if you want those types in the future. That the maximum rate for all types would be 10%. And while there's discussion of initial rate of either 8% or 5%, it sounds like the council doesn't want to establish that within the ordinance, you'll come back after adoption. That gives you a little more time to chew on it. Have a discussion of that.
Yeah, see how the businesses are actually doing at that time. I think that's the smarter move. Yeah.
I have
And
one
I-
question. Oh,
Well, just one comment. I think it's important in the ordinance language that if we're asking it to cover all types, that it be very, very clear to anyone else reading it that that does not automatically allow those other type of uses to happen. I think that would be a community concern. So to make sure that language is very clear.
and that was my comment. Was that going to be addressed in the ordinance? Because I think it'll be a huge concern if people see
Legal uses.
that there's all these uses, they'll assume that there's all these uses that we don't have. So if there's some way to articulate that in the ordinance, that this is for the future and only this one thing over here is today, the retail, right? Versus growing and all these other things, because
Yeah.
there will be an uproar for sure if people see it.
This
Legal.
includes all, including currently non-permitted.
Something like that. Yeah.
Brackets
Is there a
of-
way to do that, Mark?
Yeah, we can certainly make clear that in the ordinance, something that, states that, as of the moment, only retail is allowed, includes the other types, or as a vision for the future. That would also be captured in the resolution that the council would have to approve to place the measure on the ballot. It may be cumbersome to include that within the ballot statement, which has to be 75 words. And that there's a lot of effort figuring out the right 75 words for that. But
And
that
we have
also
our
goes,
faith in you.
yeah. And then there also is a piece of that that goes into the campaigning for the measure, which of course is, the council is not, the council can take a position of support for it, but can't, actively campaign as a council for its passage. But, if there's supporters in the community that we're going to take up that effort, that would be something that they'd be trying to make, the argument for and rebuttal, the argument against in the material likely when it hit on the.
Could it say something like retail storefronts and other uses if permitted in the future?
We'll find some.
Yeah.
You'll have plenty of opportunity to see the wording and make sure it captures it to your satisfaction.
Yes,
Perfect.
it needs to be very, very clear. But like I said, I'm comfortable with your recommendation of the 8% cap, but I mean, you know what my thoughts on cannabis generally is anyway. So if my colleagues want to go 10%, go for it. I'm good with it. But I am comfortable with HDL's recommendation all the way around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, with that, item 6B has been moved. So we will continue on to item 7, public comment and consent calendar forum. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved with a single vote unless removed for separate discussion by the council or city manager. Individuals wishing to speak on consent items or matters not on the agenda are asked to complete a speaker's card and submit it to the city clerk. All remarks shall be directed to the mayor and council members and are limited to 3 minutes. By law, the council cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Item 7A, register approval. Item 7B, minutes approval. And item 7C, Willows Little League Association field use fees. With that, I will give it to the pleasure of the council.
You do have a public comment.
Okay.
Vince Holvik.
Mayor Hudson, city council members, and it's getting to be mosquito time again. So one of the things that comes up as the weather changes, we get good weather, we get bad weather, we get good weather, the mosquitoes come out, they go back, they come out, go back, and then we get phone calls saying what's going on with the mosquitoes and everything else. Well, there's a certain policy and procedure we have to follow that this time of the year is tough for the mosquito district to take care of and do it right. We have to be very careful we don't spray during the daytime when the pollinators, the bees and everything else are out there, because we don't want to harm them and it's part of the agricultural community. The other one is if we spray during the daytime when the mosquitoes are active, the UV rays sort of take away the effectiveness of the spray. So we tend to spray at night. But at night is when the mosquitoes go down, so they aren't there to be affected by it. So right now, this time of the year, we can't spray during the daytime, and nighttime is not effective. So we have to wait until the weather gets just right. So the conditions are there for the spray to be effective. We don't hit the pollinators. We don't hit civilians and things like that. So it was put in the paper. I'm not sure everyone was aware of the article that went in. So that's why I wanted to bring it up tonight. And just in case you get questions as far as what's going on, you're at least a little aware of some of the prohibitions of spraying. And if you really have any questions, have them get a hold of the mosquito district and they can answer the questions. They answer a lot of questions. They've been very good at it. The citizens are understanding generally when you talk to them and explain the reasons why you can't do it. It's just frustrating when you're laying there at night, just getting ready to go to sleep, and all of a sudden, bzzz, you see it.
Right in
These
your
little things flying around, you know it's going to suck your blood during the evening. So, you know, so you lay there and wait for it to bite and then you slap it. So,
Or we could just call you, Vince.
yeah, call me. I was going to say,
Type it right
those
into the house.
those of us that have been around for a while, remember way back before the mosquito board came in the district. I remember my parents had Black Flag spray in a can with a pump.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you pumped and you went around under the beds. You went around under everything, spraying
was
at
fun.
night before you went to bed. That's just about as bad as Vicks Vapor Rub on your nose. But I just want to make sure that citizens know what they can do. You know, drain any standing water. What happens is the mosquitoes lay their eggs, and as soon as some water hits those eggs, then they become active. You know, you don't even know they're there, and they don't have to have water to necessarily have the eggs. They can lay them anyway. Repair windows, screens, wear long sleeve shirts, use BPA approved sprays, and avoid mosquito activities in those evenings hours when we can't spray. So until we get out to the full-fledged spraying and everything else, just want to make the citizens and the council aware that the district is doing what they can and what they can't do during the daytime hours until we get to it. Just wanted to bring it up, let you know I'm here more than just when I get appointed. That was the question. But I see this guy, where is he? So any questions going into the season?
You have a contact phone number for people to reach out to?
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I have some handouts, the articles that were in the paper. I'll give each one of the council members a copy. Any of the citizens email, the phone numbers and everything, if anybody would like a copy. It's also online. You can find it there. It's under Glenn County Special Districts. You can find us there and we'll answer all the questions you can.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
And
for
I
what you
want
do.
to add my
And,
congratulations to Natisa for her work and everything she has done for the city over the 20 years. I was also around when she was there. Her and her department do a fantastic job with limited resources, just like everybody else does. So just want to pass that along. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Vince. Thank you.
Seth Roach.
Sorry, we're going to get into the protocol here. Hey, council members, Mr. Mayor. My name is Seth Roach. I'm a resident here of Willows, California. The reason I'm here, it's with regards to some of the traffic issues and violations and safety issues we've seen over the past several years. Unfortunately, as the start of this calendar year, we've had 2 deaths and some tragic accidents, car accidents in Willows. And just one of those things that I just wanted to bring to the council's attention to at least have some awareness on it. And at least I know there's not much we can do with regards to, the revenue issue and finding ways to have traffic enforcement here or increase traffic enforcement. It's just something I want to make sure that there's some eyes on, so you all can maybe talk to some, people at the supervisor's level, sheriff's office, eventually down the road if we get the police back. But it's just an issue that's really affected at least this community, and it affects me as a driver and my dad as a driver. We've seen some really crazy traffic violations here. For example, my dad was driving westbound on Sycamore Street, 25 miles an hour, and a car approached to his right and flew right past him at 35 miles an hour. And that's, that definitely goes against the law. And unfortunately, it's just going to get worse. And if nothing is done, if there's no increased scrutiny by local law enforcement, we're unfortunately going to see more deaths. Again, another example, Villa Avenue. I'm so glad that we have that stop sign at the school right next to the County Office of Education. Otherwise, it would just be a drag strip all the way from that corner at Elm Street to Wood Street, or at least to Sycamore. No matter what, people still use that as a drag strip and fly their cars, their motorcycles through there faster than about 35, 45, even 50 miles an hour. Thankfully, we still have school zones in that area, and people still do drive slowly in some of those places. It's just, unfortunately, some people just think laws and traffic laws are suggestions. And I just want to make sure that this is brought to at least the council's attention. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Zach.
No, thank you.
My thought on this is it's a complacency thing that's starting to happen. I've noticed more people going through stop signs. They'll drive up to an intersection, it'll be clear, they won't stop, they just go straight through. And I believe that's going to be like a creep in law enforcement and what we're involved in the community. And I'm concerned on that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's how people get killed.
Exactly.
No, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further public comment on anything
Yes.
not on the agenda?
Next would be Jeff Black
Jeff?
regarding item 7C.
Good evening, Council. Jeff Fleck, Willows Little League. I just wanted to show up again and let you know that Willows Little League is working with the city, Public Works, and Joe Betancourt on trying to get a newer contract for Willows Little League and reducing fees for Willows Little League, so we don't have to pass the expenses on to our parents to prevent their kids from playing. So we did have a field cleanup day just this last Saturday. We had about 15 families out there picking up leaves, weed eating, burning weeds, and we filled a 14-foot by 17-foot, 7-foot by 14-foot dump trailer full of leaves, trimmings, garbage, picked up the garbage around the parks and so forth. So we're holding up our end and want to see what you guys can do for us.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for your service. I know that's a big deal for you guys when you go and do that. So it's a lot of volunteer hours.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all.
With that, no more public comment? Okay, with that, we will go to the pledge of the council. Vice Mayor Thomas?
Move to approve.
Seconded.
I have a first and second. Any further discussion? I am going to be the further discussion. I was reading over the Little League contract and I was a little confused. They're charged $200 for this East softball field, but it's only a deposit for the Willows Little League fields. And I was curious why it's considered a deposit.
So looking at past records, going back to the original agreement, it's changed over time. The most recent one in 2023 has been a deposit base. I don't think have had an official charge per se. It's always been a deposit, whether that deposit was kept or not, depended on the amount of effort through the Public Works team and them charging their time. I think over the course of the years, Willows Little League has taken on more responsibility with their field prep work and maintaining what they do. So we want to get back to it being truly a deposit, which kind of results in a no cost of public service if Public Works crews are not needed. There's never been an established fee for it. Like I said, this would be a deposit held in case the bathroom breaks and we need Public Works to go fix it. We would charge that time against them and kind of work off that deposit. If Public Works is used more than that $400, we would invoice for the excess. If under, they never called us and we never had anything besides, regular maintenance, which we would mow the outfield no matter what. They would get that $400 back.
Okay.
And historically, the softball field has always been a charge, and we're just reducing that down to a lower rate.
Okay. I was going to ask why then was a softball field a charge instead of a deposit as well. And that.
And I
answered my
think the main
question, so.
difference was that the softball field has the availability to be rented, right? It's open for somebody to rent it. So we are limiting somebody's ability to
else's
rent it.
time.
Yeah, and where the Little League field is open to everybody on a non-reservation level at all times.
Okay. Okay. So with that, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed 5-0. All right. With that, we are moving back to our presentation, item 6B, Fire Department annual presentation.
Good evening, council. Tonight, we're going to go over the 2025 annual report, and we'll start off with a little video. This video was made by Tim Danley, our public information guy.
Drone 2.
And if you know Tim, you can tell that this is Tim's work.
Sorry about that. Screen.
Tim only sent us the audio file.
I know. Yes, 8.
So Tim is much more tech savvy than me. All the credit goes to him for that. There's no way I would even be close to being able to do anything quite as good as him in that arena. I just hope he never listens to this to hear the compliment directly out of my mouth. And if you know me and Tim,
I'm going to tell him to watch it.
all right. Next slide. Video. So Willows Fire consists as basically three separate organizations that make up the generic global umbrella term that is Willows Fire, and it's the City of Willows Fire Department, the Willows Rural Fire Protection District, which is a special district. It covers about 78 square miles, and then the Willows Volunteer Fire Department, which is a nonprofit and helps recruit and provide the majority of our workforce. Next slide. All three shifts have been filled. This is the second year in a row, which was pretty cool. At the beginning of my tenure here, it seemed like between either hiring freezes or people lateraling to other agencies. But the last 2 years have been stable with the same three career staff. Kyle Enos is our captain on A shift. Tyler Lombard is our captain on B shift. And then Jaime Fuentes is our engineer on C shift. Slide. The organization structure for the Willows Rural Fire Protection District is the Citizens, the Rural Board, which is a 5-person appointed board by the Board of Supervisors, and then their fire chief, which is an unpaid position, Chief Alex Parisi. Slide. Willows Volunteers, it's a 100% separate entity. It's a nonprofit organization. There's currently about 35 volunteers on the roster, and they provide staffing to both the city and the rural fire departments, and they're funded entirely by donations. So the Bean Feed is their yearly fundraiser, and that's what all of their funding comes from for the most part. And then the Pancake Breakfast is what they use to fund the public education. Next slide. This is a pretty cool picture. So this is Captain Enos with mom and a little baby that A shift had the opportunity to assist one evening. They came back by the station a month or so later to ask us to help install the car seat to make sure it was all good. And as we started talking, kind of put the pieces back together, and she was telling me the story because I was the person that greeted her, and she's like, yeah, this gentleman from the department, there was like 3 or 4 people that was there, and I went into labor at my house and they helped deliver this baby. And I was like, well, what did he look like? And she told me, and I was like, well, he's actually here. And so he got to meet the baby that he helped deliver, and it was a pretty cool moment. Next slide. 2025 achievements. Every time that I start to think that I have a plan and direction for what the future year at Willows Fire Department is going to look like, I'm reminded that reality gets a vote, and I'm 0 for 5 so far on having my yearly plans correctly anticipated. This year, we're pretty busy with strike teams. We responded to 6 separate strike team assignments throughout the state. We wrote, that says 6, but it was actually 7 Cal OES prepositions packages, which were approved. Which the preposition program is a program funded by Cal OES, where when the weather meets certain criteria, we can apply for upstaffing through the state. The state pays for the personnel, pays for food, pays for fuel, and pays for the engine to upstaff in our operational area. And our op area is the Glenn County limits. So in those times, we are a county resource, so to speak, and we're available to respond within the county. The Willows Rural Fire Protection District in April approved its first Proposition 218 special assessment increase since 1992. We did our annual weed abatement. 143 North Yolo was officially checked off the list of issues for the city and was abated. We got all of our mandated equipment testing done. So our NFPA required ladder, hose, pump, and SCBA flow testing. Probably one of the biggest things that we did this year was we launched our advanced life support non-transport program as a result of the hospital closing down. That wasn't on my 2025 bingo card. We installed a new fire station phone system. And when I say we, I mean Carlene did 99.99% of the work. And got that whole project together. It was much more complicated than I thought it was going to be. And she was a rock star, and it was awesome having her be able to do that because I probably would still be working on it. We negotiated a Prop 172 / payment in lieu of taxes MOU with the Glenn County Board of Supervisors and all 11 fire districts for a cost sharing agreement. Next slide. The fire department launched a new program this year called the Vial Life. And when I say the fire department, this was Engineer Jaime Fuentes' baby this year. The Vial Life is a public outreach program where we go out to the community and basically give them a form to fill out and a sticker and a little, it's not a carrying case, but like a magnet thing that goes on the refrigerator that the community member can fill out all of their medical history, their medications that they take, their emergency contact. And it makes our life a lot easier when we show up because all that information's in one spot. If they're not able to talk to us or if they're altered or they're with a friend, all that really important information is right there for us. And that was Jaime Fuentes this year. He put a lot of work into it. We went to all the senior living centers, so 714 North Humboldt, 1340 West Sycamore. We went to a couple community organizations and passed out a couple hundred. So it was very successful, and we're going to continue it in the future. 2025 Fire Prevention Week, we visited all the primary schools and gave fire safety presentations and let the kids see the apparatus. The 2025 Bean Feed and Pancake Breakfast. We participated with numerous community events, including the Christmas tree lighting, the homecoming parade, Lamb Derby, 4th of July. I think the 4th of July tri-tip cook-off was rigged because we didn't get first place. We didn't even come close to placing, but there was some pretty good meat there. We participated in Willows Wonderland, the Chili Cook-Off, National Night Out. The volunteers, along with Public Works, a lot of help from Natisa, completed an apparatus, the station rear apron repair. Originally, that project was budgeted for about $80,000, and due to the Public Works crew and the volunteers, that project was completed for about $60,000 under what we anticipated. And one of my favorites, we were awarded the People's Choice after accidentally starting the Battle of the Bulbs with Orland and Artois. And I think, in my personal opinion, that was the most important award to win. So next slide. So the 5 things that we said we were going to do in 2025 was mitigate emergencies. We were going to train for emergencies, that we were going to continue to recruit new volunteers, that we were going to seek out outside funding sources such as grants, and that we were going to continue to replace unsafe and outdated safety equipment. And in my opinion, I think we were able to do all 5 of those things. We responded to 1,072 calls for service. We spent over 2,000 hours training for emergencies. We recruited and trained 5 new volunteer firefighters, and we authored 6 successful grant packages. This year, we were able to, with grant funding, we were able to replace all of our fire shelters and several other sets of PPE. The call breakdown. So this year, for calendar year 2025, 748 of our calls were in the city, which equals about 73.135%. And 288 total responses were in the rural district, which was about 26.865%. One thing that is interesting to note, since the hospital closure, we ran the numbers from November 1st to at the time it was February 15th, I believe. And that shift has changed to about 20% rural, 80% city. That could just be a very short time period, or it could be related to the hospital being closed and there being more medical. Just like every fire department, a larger portion of the largest portion of our calls are rescue and EMS incidents. Slide. So we're going to start with the city apparatus, and then we'll go into the rural district apparatus. Engine 3 is our main Type 1 pumper. It was purchased in 2020, and it's a good engine for us. One thing that has been extremely helpful this year that I didn't put in the slide, and I should have, was the city being able to hire a new mechanic in 2025. This is an HME. HMEs have many different nicknames, and Travis has been the HME whisperer lately and has fixed a lot of the chronic issues that we've had with it. So he's been a true godsend in that arena. Next slide. Engine 2. So we're currently in the process of ordering and speccing a new Engine 2. This will be funded from likely 3 different sources. $660,000 of it is funded by the late Congressman LaMalfa grant that we're working through right now. Unfortunately, the government has been in a bit of a partial shutdown lately. So the money is there. It's approved. It's just working through the paperwork process to get a check. The capital improvement fund, and then likely some sort of lease agreement for the balance. Next slide. Truck 4 is a 2004 ladder truck. It's up to be replaced in 2029. But overall, it's in pretty good condition. Next slide. This is the pickup that I'm in most of the time. This was purchased in 2023, and this was obtained with 100% grant funding through the CAL FIRE weed abatement grant. Next slide. Utility 8, our other staff vehicle. This was purchased in 2018. It's in good condition, and no issues with that. Next slide. Engine 5. Engine 5 has been put to good work recently, and Travis has given it a second lease on life. He's had it, I think, for the last week or so, doing little adjustments and tinkers to, and chasing out some of the gremlins that we were finding. He's done a great job with it. Been a very good engine for us. We got it under the federal excess program, and it's been a great investment for the city of Willows. Slide. Engine 14. This is the rural district's primary Type 3 fire engine, and it's overall good condition. Slide. Engine 12. This was purchased in 2024. 139,000 of the $236,000 cost was with grant funding from the USDA. Slide. Engine 16. the rural district approved an order for its replacement. Engine 16 has been a very good engine for us. It's our main strike team engine on the district side of the house. However, it's starting to show its age and have more frequent mechanical repairs. When it went down to the Palisades, it was parked at the mechanic shop for about 5 days waiting for parts that they couldn't find because of the age of the engine. So this engine is scheduled to be replaced in Q2 of 2027. Slide. Water tender 15. This is I missed the same typo. I remember that being there last year. It's the department's only water tender, and it is in like new condition and have no issues with it. Next slide. We have an air cascade trailer. This was obtained through a AFG grant many moons ago, and this was actually the source of some of the OSHA compliant stuff due to the Kunkel valves, which have all been replaced now. But other than that, that's just ongoing maintenance. It's in perfectly fine condition. Next slide. Ambulance response and mutual aid. So this is the 2025 response report. The actual one's a little bit different now. As of today, I got it back from working with SSV to make sure that some of their numbers were right. They're not far off, but there were some discrepancies. The biggest thing being that Willows column where it says 10-minute priority 1, that's the city limits of Willows only. And a lot of I'd say over 2025, there was probably about 40 to 45 calls that were actually county calls that were coded into the city's data set. Most of those were in like Northeast Willows, so like your Calusa through 5th, 4th, 3rd, 1st, Cherry, Garden, a couple up in the avenues, where essentially it's basically like city limits, but they're not in the city limits. And so overall, it's pretty close, but that if you see a different 2025 report in the future, know that that's why. Next slide. Orland versus Willows responses. So one of the things that happened at the very tail end of 2024 in December was a 12-hour ambulance was added in the Orland area. That ambulance, the cost of that ambulance was funded between the city of Orland and Glenn County. And the reason why that ambulance went to Orland is because that's where really the call volume was. Beginning in 2022, 59% of the ambulance mutual aid trips were to the North County area. 64% in 2023 were from Willows to Orland. In 2024, it was 67% of the trips. In 2025, that's the first year that the whole that 12-hour ambulance was in service the whole time. And that brought that number down to about 46%. So about 50-50. The one thing that's important to note too is with those numbers, the way that 12-hour ambulance is operated by Westside and the way it's staffed from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, the way that they're doing their responses is they're basically flip-flopping during that 12-hour time period. And the thought is to make it to where that 24-hour ambulance isn't as worn down, I guess, during their shift, and to kind of put more burden on the 12-hour. So that 24-hour ambulance that's going to be there for 24 or 48 hours, that crew, that they have more downtime. So some of those trips that are from South County or from North County to South County are being done by Westside, where quite a few of them, the 12-hour ambulance would have been in the plan, and it should have been it wouldn't have been a mutual aid call from the 24-hour ambulance. And I'll explain some of that later. Next slide. This is just kind of my analysis on the addition of the 12-hour ambulance. It's made an immediate impact on transport patterns. It's decreased the amount of times that the Willows-based ambulance has had to respond to Orland. And it's reduced reliance on the Willows-based ambulance for the north end of the county. As the region grows, long-term planning and sustainable funding is going to be required. And additional service needs and capacity should be funded by the service area, generating the increased call volume and additional. Next slide. Grants. Like I said, we wrote 6 grant packages, and the total of that funding equated to $846,650. We managed 2 multi-year grants. Fire Recovery USA, that's our fee structure for certain calls for service, generated $30,862, and that's primarily from insurance companies. The Willows Rural Fire Protection District contract was about $49,000, and we anticipate netting approximately $293,000 from strike team and pre-positioning. Next slide. This is a slide showing where those grant dollars came from. The overwhelming majority of that funding came from the CPF grant and the weed abatement grant. The rural, there's a couple of rural grants that are included in there, and the Fire Safe Council grant that's at the very top, that was the total amount for the grant, and the $50,000 below is the amount of grant funding that is coming back to the city of Willows for my time running the slide. Just a breakdown of the revenue. Anticipated expense is about $233,000 for our OES deployments. Anticipated incomes just over $526,000. The fire chief or the chief salary savings. So when I go out on strike team deployments, the city's already planned on spending my salary. Well, when I'm gone, those first 40 hours of that deployment, the state is paying the city of Willows at an overtime rate for me, even though I'm not making. So, and they're recuperating the costs that they would normally have to pay just for me to be in the station working. And then this is a way for the general fund burden of my position to be absorbed by the state or the feds or whatever entity paying for the assignment. Next slide. Our upcoming projects for 26, 27, the ones that we know about so far is the biggest one, Engine 2, identifying approximately $800,000 in funding to complete the purchase and supplement the former Congressman LaMalfa's grant. We'd like to purchase video laryngoscopes at the cost of about $7,500. Those are for intubation, so it's actually like a little camera. All the studies are showing that video laryngoscopes are the gold standard for pre-hospital airway management. I've used both. I'm much better with a video scope than I am with the old school style. It makes it much easier and you have better patient outcomes. And then the next payment for the EKG monitors, approximately just under $10,000. Slide. And with that, I will answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Vice Mayor Thomas, any questions? Councilmember Pride,
Let somebody else go first, just because Rick always does.
Councilmember Busby.
While it's an absolute tragedy that these fires do spread up around the state, great job on the strike team. That's incredible for our team. It's incredible for the city. Thank you. Awesome job, dude.
Councilmember Hanson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Chief, excellent report. Thank you very much. And excellent job to you and the entire Willows Fire Organization. As you know, I'm extremely proud of our department and all the personnel. And I've said it many times, but it's a jewel. It's definitely a jewel in the community. It's a fantastic organization, do excellent work. So thank you for everything that you do out there, and be safe. Okay. And as far as your 2026-27 project list, I fully endorse all three of those concepts, beginning with engine 2 replacement. So engine 2 served Willows extremely well, but she's old and tired. So, but anyways, so good job, Chief. Thank you.
With that, I'll take my swing and give you guys a little bit more time down there, the left side of the table. Engine 2, on the engine 2 funding, will that, will the government are not receiving that funding? Will that cause a delay in our ordering process at all?
No, I don't think so. I think we're still working through the specification and design process of what that engine is going to look like. It's going to be a fiscal year 26-27 budget request.
Okay. Do we know what our Orland to Willows rate was? You had a lot of the Willows to how much our ambulance was in Orland, going from Willows to Orland. Do we know how often Orland was coming to Willows?
Yeah, if we pull up that slide again, it'd be.
Is it the other percentage of that?
It's just going to be the opposite.
Would their ambulance coming down to Willows would be the opposite of that?
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, that's totally fine. I just,
like 2024, or sorry, 2020. Yeah, 2024 was like 2 to 1. So, I think it was 67%.
yeah,
Actually, I could look.
I think it was 60. Yeah,
This
I
is
think
why
you're
Carlene is
close.
awesome and gave me this.
It was 2024 was 67%.
So 2022 was 59% of trips were Willows to Orland. That means 41% of it was Orland coming
Coming to Willows.
to Willows.
Okay.
2023, it would be 36% of those trips was Orland to Willows. 2024 would have been 33%. So that was the 2 to 1.
And then 25 is a little bit skewed because of the 12-hour ambulance, those calls that are
That
out
was
there
the
by
first
39
first time that we've had.
full 12-hour ambulance. And a lot of those
Yeah.
calls, though, that are like on counter 39 area are being counted towards Willows because they're having to come down to
Yeah,
Archway.
because it was counted towards Willows, like in-low zone versus west side zone, not necessarily the city of Willows.
Gotcha. Okay. So it could still be county land, but
could
they're
still be
counting it
county.
towards Willows. Gotcha. Sorry, that question was more
That's
of which
why
based off of our
Some of
next
those
agenda item.
numbers are different, are going to be different because I was able to find some of that stuff.
And the OES revenues, is that the pre-position and the strike teams combined? Okay. Well, Chief, I gotta say, great presentation, great job. Thank you for the work you guys do. And I will see if my colleagues at the left side have anything to add. Vice Mayor
I
Tom?
do have something, and it's, you talk about Battle of the Bulbs was one of the best awards you got. And I agree on the fun level and competition and the spirit of the community. That's absolutely true. I think the best thing you did was establish an AL.
And that's exactly what I was thinking too. The two things, going to advanced life support and doing it quickly after losing the emergency room at the hospital. That says a lot about your abilities to get things done. Working with other organizations. I would like to see the follow-up to that as maybe as we look at considering transport as well. I didn't hear anything about that, but if that's something that's still being thought about as other ambulance type services. And then lastly, just the number of new volunteers that we have. It's been nice to go down to the station and there's a lot of faces I don't know, and I've only stepped away in the last year or so. And it just seems like there's a lot of enthusiasm, seems to be good response to calls and people, stepping up to get more training for the ALS skills. So thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
I've transitioned into the middle-aged group at the volunteer level, from the young group to the middle-aged group with a lot of the 20-year-olds that are coming in now. So it's really good to see some young faces in there that can climb the ladders a little bit faster than I'm able to. So, yeah, good job, Chief. All right. With that, we will continue on to item 8, discussion and action calendar. All matters on the discussion and action calendar will be discussed and acted on individually. Individuals wishing to speak on these items are asked to complete a speaker card and submit it to the city clerk. Comments should be directed to the mayor and council members and are limited to 3 minutes. By law, the council cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Item 8A, Countywide Ambulance Ad Hoc Committee Appointment. Recommended action, appoint 2 council members to a Countywide Ambulance Ad Hoc Committee. And I will leave this with our city manager, Marty Brown.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. We did receive a request from the county, actually from the entire ad hoc committee, to have Willows join the ambulance ad hoc committee and have 2 members appointed to the committee. The goal of the committee is to focus on reviewing the current condition and future needs of ambulance service in Glenn County, identify funding challenges, and develop equitable cost sharing agreements, improve coordination between jurisdictions and ambulance providers, ensure that service level expectations are met across all communities in the county, and provide a structured environment for policy discussion, data review, and recommendations to the respective governing boards. As I think the council is aware, we do not currently contribute to the additional ambulance, and that's part of this, what this ad hoc committee would be discussing and going over, and as part of their purview. However, we did contribute to a study along with the county and Orland to look at the entire Glenn County and service delivery of EMS and fire protection. And so this committee will also be reviewing the results of that study when it finally does come out, which greatly impacts, obviously, the city of Willows as well. So I think it's a great opportunity. I had to be convinced by the fire chief initially that it's a great opportunity, but it is a great opportunity for the city to be involved in the table, at the table, especially when it comes to reviewing that final study that should be coming out hopefully in the next couple of months. And with that, Fire Chief Monk, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah. So to give a little bit of background on this, the ambulance committee originally was like a big countywide thing. They met for 10, 15 years with really no major substantive changes other than reporting out. It went away. The Board of Supervisors had a big push to improve ambulance service across the county as it was greatly needed. And in the end of 2024, we added, or the county added, a 12-hour ambulance that was subsidized partially by the city of Orland and partially by Glenn County. Since then, one of the things that we've kind of discovered is that one of the biggest problems with ambulance service in Glenn County is the geography between where we live and where the calls are at and where the receiving hospitals are. And the call volume, it's not necessarily the call volume's too high, it's because it takes too long to run a call because of the amount of drive time that you have. And so that 12-hour car did a ton to fix the ambulance response times, but just like anything, there's costs. And so if the call volume isn't there to pay for all the resources, and so the ambulance provider in the north end of the county approached the city of Orland to receive a subsidy. The most recent meeting was at that February meeting. If you guys are interested, I would recommend listening to it. You can start at the about 45-minute mark, where a very spirited debate with some opinions of some officials were made that all of the entities in Glenn County should be paying for not only the 12-hour car, but the 24-hour car subsidy as well. And so that's really what sparked this and what sparked the county to reach out to us to get a seat at that table. And I think that it's a good opportunity for the city to be represented and to have timely firsthand information, and we're not hearing about things second and third hand. That's it.
And I'll just add, we will be asked for money, and you will be asked for money if somebody sits on the committee, if 2 council members sit on it. So I'm sure you already figured that out.
Any questions from the council?
This was a very topic of spirited discussion at the last Orland City Council meeting.
What was that date of that particular?
think it was the 17th.
February 17th,
The count-
Portland City Council.
February 17th.
And the ad hoc meeting has been happening, but it's just been with Orland and the county because it's supposed to be kind of over the 12-hour. And they meet to go over expenditures, revenues, needs, things like that. And with the discussion that took on at the February meeting, I think the county thought that it'd be a good idea to get us in the room.
Chief,
It
was,
it is
any more questions?
anticipated,
yeah.
but
Chief-
it is anticipated that they're going to be discussing the results of that study that we all contributed to, right?
Yeah, when the study's received, it will be presented there. And then the original thought was that when that study's done, that there would be a big, like 15-person joint session of the Board of Supervisors, the city count, and both city councils. That was the original kind of thought that we came up with. And if you remember back when that study got put together, it was a hyperdrive, let's figure it out as we go on, but let's get the study in motion because we all found out at the very last minute that the medical center was not going to be a thing anymore.
Chief, on that February 17th meeting, what did you say minute 43?
45. Right around
45?
there.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, is there any public comment? Okay, seeing none. Pleasure of the council.
How often are they meeting?
I'm not sure.
Actually, this request was made from the county administrator, and we did not have that discussion. I'm sorry, I didn't get information. Certainly.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it's a regularly scheduled or just as needed scheduled.
They're willing to ask us for a meeting, huh?
I think it might be as needed because the county administrator said that they were getting ready to schedule a meeting sometime in March. And I said, you might want to wait until after this meeting because I was going to put it on the agenda. And if action was going to be taken, it'd probably be taken tonight. So they didn't know when the meeting was going to happen in March. So, which usually you do know those kinds of things if it's a set thing. Speculating a little bit.
I would be willing to volunteer for the ad hoc with it being known that my goal at being on that would be for a joint ambulance and going through the study that was done and not just paying part of West Side's bills. So.
And I don't mind serving on it either, if nobody else wanted to.
Well, I'm
Or
pleased
is
to hear
that a-
that because I think this is not going to be resolved in the next 10 months. And I know my term out at the end of this year. And I think by the time you get into the bowels of what we need to know and understand all about ambulance and the service and nuances and the Politico, and it's going to take some time.
It does seem very public safety committee meeting to some though.
We have 2 volunteers. I would move to appoint the 2 volunteers.
Sounds good to me.
Talking about.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor of Lori and myself, Evan, being appointed to the ad hoc committee, signify by saying aye. Or sorry,
Aye.
and we have a first and a second on that? I guess we need a first and a second.
I'll second.
Sorry.
Is there a motion?
Huh?
Who was the first? Yourself, Mayor Hudson?
What, the first?
You're the first and Vice Mayor second, or?
No.
I'll move.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
I just volunteered.
I thought I moved.
I'll move. Mr. Mayor, I respectfully move to appoint yourself and Councilmember Pride to the Ambulance Ad Hoc Committee.
I have a first. Vice Mayor, you seconding?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Second. No first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Lori and I shall be appointed.
Well, I will make sure that they reach out to you directly.
Good luck with that assignment.
Meetings around 10 o'clock. If they could have muffins available, that'd be great. Kidding. Sorry. All right. With that, go back. We will go on to item 9, comments and reports. Item 9A, council correspondence. I did not have any. Part of that is because I also did not have my key to get into my box. I showed up, double check it. So
If there is any.
I don't think there was any in there, but that was another reason why I didn't check. 9B, city council comments and reports. Start with you, Vice Mayor Thomas.
Absolutely. Monday was the normal LAFCO monthly meeting. We are the vice chair of that organization. Grant Carmen, the president or the chair, and myself are on the budget committee. And we're working on the budget for LAFCO. As you know, we pay 25%.
I don't know off the top
It's
of my
some
head. sorry.
percentage, but last year it was about $12,000.
Yes, that sounds about right. Yeah.
They're going to do a few municipal service reviews. One would be for the Willows Rural Fire Department, and one would be for the Kanawha Fire Department, Volunteer Fire Department. Most of that is funded by the LAFCO itself. So they currently have over a $290,000 cash reserve. So we do not know how that'll affect the portion. That's it.
Okay, Councilmember Pride.
No major reports. We're just still working on wayfinding signs. We're getting price quotes for those and just making sure sizes look right out on Wood Street and whatnot. And just finalizing new photos for the banners.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Busby.
Yeah, there was a Waste Management Regional Authority board meeting scheduled, our quarterly board meeting scheduled for last week, but there was no agenda items, so it was canceled. That's all I got.
Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this afternoon we had our monthly Glen Groundwater Authority board meeting. It's actually routine business. It was a rather short agenda, which is unusual for the Groundwater Authority, which is a good thing. But we're still moving forward, implementing the groundwater sustainability plan, specifically moving into the demand management phase after we completed our pilot well mitigation project last December on time. So anyway, moving forward, a lot of work to do, and the board is at it. And we all received an email from Dick Cohen, president of the Sacramento National Wildlife Refuge, Friends of the Refuge group, and it's a great group. And I did attend the grand reopening of the Refuge Visitor Center, and they did a marvelous job on the reconstruction and the expansion. It's a great center. Had a good time. Saw a lot of like-minded folks there, and it was good to chat with several of the board members. But the Friends group, they do a lot of work there. It's a beautiful center. The Refuge is one of the other jewels. I mentioned Jewel with Willows Fire all the time. But the Refuge too is one of our jewels in the community, and it's sadly there's a lot of people that live here that don't appreciate what we have there with the Sacramento National Wildlife Refuge and Refuge Complex and the great work that is done there. But this is waterfowl country, and this is where our waterfowl friends spend several months of the year, right here. But no, if you get a chance, check it out. And the Friends house, they're a fledgling volunteer organization, and stop by, check it out. They're open on a few hours on Fridays and Saturdays, and they do have a little store there. And they got merchandise there, and I bought some merch, and that's how they fund their operations. But it was a good time, and I'm proud of that group. And I did receive a copy of the Great Train Heist in my mailbox just a couple of days ago. Lori, when we picked up the agendas, it was in there, and so I got a copy. I don't know who sent it.
Everybody got a
tried.
copy, and nobody.
I guess we've all gotten one. So thank you to whoever sent it. Appreciate it. I did start taking a look at it the other night. That looks pretty interesting. Gee, imagine wasting taxpayer money in California. Who would imagine that? Really? But anyway, so thank you to whoever sent that. But that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For me, the only thing we had was our town hall meeting. Supervisor Yoder and I hosted a town hall meeting for Stability Solutions, which is putting in the transitional housing over off of Sacramento. Andrea and Toby of Stability Solutions, along with 3 of their employees arrived to answer a lot of questions. They gave a great presentation. Unfortunately, the font was a little small for some of the participants to read, so we did offer an email list for those to get that. But they did a great job of answering a lot of the questions and concerns. Stayed pretty, for the most part, well respectful towards their goals and their aspirations. And based off their presentation, you can tell they're doing this from a place of actually caring, and it's not just about, they're just not out to make money. They're actually there to try and change lives and help people. So hopefully, hopefully as time goes on, that comes around to be a net positive for the community, and put a lot of those worries to bed. And just as long as there's a general understanding on that, that the city was very limited in how we could approve or disapprove them moving in there. Our only aspect in that was making sure that it was a livable space as residents. And that was about the only input that we could put into there. So just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware we did have a town hall on that. I do believe it was partially streamed on Facebook Live from what I noticed. So it might be available there if anybody's interested. And if you are interested in receiving a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, you can shoot me an email and I will see if I can get a copy of it sent over to you. All right. With that, I will not close my binder because there's still more to go on. We will go on to item 9C, City Manager's Report.
Just very quickly, I wanted to mention that I too went to the open house at the Sacramento Wildlife Refuge with my mother, and we did the auto tour and went for a walk. And the facility was really, really nice. I didn't realize that it was like brand new building and everything, I guess. So it was a really nice facility. There was a lot of people. I ran into Levon Hinton as well as I was leaving the parking lot. And the only other thing I wanted to mention was just, I also wanted to thank Natisa for her service. She was the superintendent who reported to me for the first 15 months I was here directly. Another 3 months when we were between community development directors. She's always been extremely responsive and supportive of the community and of the staff. And when I had no finance department for 3 months, she went out of her way to come in and code billing for all of Public Works and Community Development and just pitch in and go the extra mile. And she's always gone the extra mile. So it's been just a tremendous pleasure to work with her for the last 4.5 years. That is how long I've been here.
Yeah.
So
Well-
thank you,
It's really
Natisa.
Well said, Marty.
All right. With that, we will go into closed session. Prior to the city convening into closed session, the public will have an opportunity to address the council regarding the items listed below. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3, public comments are generally restricted to 3 minutes. Closed session item 10A, conference with legal counsel, initiation of litigation, Section Code 54956.9, subsection D, subsection 4. 2 cases. 10B, conference with real property negotiators, Government Code Section 54956.8, property 139 North Lassen Street, Willows, California. Agency negotiator, Marty Brown, city manager. Negotiating party, Sandra Bergson. I hope I pronounced that right. Under negotiation, price and terms of payment. Is there any public comment on those 2 items? Okay. You can come up to the microphone and please state your name. It's not required, but please say your name for the record.
My mom was supposed to be here, but at the last minute she couldn't, so she asked me to come and say what she wanted to say. My name is Laura Pedro, and so I'm asking you guys to consider a few things before you move toward the listing of their home. My parents have lived there for 8 years and 8 months, and they found out about a year ago that their house was going to be put on the market via the front page of the newspaper. Nobody contacted them, told them it was coming, talked to them about it, nothing. Just their house was on the front page of the paper one day. And so, of course, they were devastated because it's really hard to find a good rental in this town. And my dad is a quadriplegic. And so finding a home that accommodates his wheelchair And the type of bed that he requires and things like that is very difficult. And this house checks all those boxes. So unfortunately, they aren't in a place where they could purchase the home, which they obviously would have done if they could. So they have been looking and have not found anything thus far. And so they decided to just kind of wait it out and what happens. Okay, so we'll just write out. Well, about a month ago, my dad, was diagnosed with cancer. And being an 82-year-old quadriplegic outcome is not good. This is all very new to me. I'm sorry. With that being said, he is not a good candidate for chemotherapy or surgery. And so we will know more in about a month. And we'll know what his prognosis looks like. But he will more than likely be going on hospice. And I don't know if any of you know what hospice looks like. It's not nice. There's nothing fun about it. And when cancer is spreading throughout your body, you're just heavily medicated all the time to control the pain. And the last thing I want for my parents is for the house to be being shown while my dad is on hospice. I don't know if it's even a possibility. My wish would be that we could postpone the sale. I don't know if that's even possible, but I'm throwing it out. And if not, then maybe being the word stipulation, the way it's listed as being an investment property with a lease, because I don't believe, and I don't know anything about this, but I don't believe that even if it's listed as an investment property, there's anything stopping the new owner from making them move out. But a lease would protect them for however long. Chances are, once my dad is gone, my mother will move in with me. And the oncologist yesterday, we don't have a proper stage yet, but they think he's in stage 3. And the most he probably has is a year. And he's already not eating. So I don't even know if we have a year. So my wish is to postpone, but I understand that's not an option. That's all I got. And I'm sorry for.
Well, thank you. And so sorry to hear about your dad.
Yeah.
That's got to be really tough. Are there any questions?
Your parents are good people. I know them. They're very good people. So thank you. Too bad. That's too bad to hear.
It's just so we would have moved them, when this first came out, but finding a that, because he's in a fairly large wheelchair, being able to find a house that has hallways big enough or doorways big enough. So it's so difficult. So anyway,
Yeah.
Thank you for hearing me.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will go into closed session at 8:09.
Ready?
Yeah.
We're returning from closed session at 7.
Okay, as to item 10A, authorization was given on both cases to initiate litigation by unanimous vote. Details of the litigation will be released to the public once those cases have been filed. As to 10B, there is no reportable action.
Thank you. And we will adjourn the meeting at 8:38. Have a good night.